The boy stood barefoot on the cracked pavement, holding a rusted toolbox that was heavier than his own future, his fingers trembling not from fear but from hunger, the kind that doesn't growl in the stomach but screams in the chest when hope is thin and tomorrow feels like a lie. And when the black luxury car stopped in front of him, shining like it didn't belong in this broken street, he didn't step back like everyone else did, because desperation gives a strange kind of courage to those who have nothing left to lose. And as the driver stepped out panicking about the engine smoke curling like shame into the air, the boy spoke softly but clearly, "I can fix this," a sentence so small yet so dangerous in a world that had already decided what he was worth. The millionaire stepped out next, dressed in confidence and wealth stitched into every fold of his suit, his eyes scanning the street as if poverty were contagious, and when his gaze fell on the boy, dirt on his face, torn shirt, worn shoes that had long given up pretending, he laughed. Not a loud laugh, but a cruel one, the kind that cuts deeper than shouting ever could, and he said, "You can't even fix your life," and the people watching lowered their eyes because they'd heard words like that before, words that crushed dreams quietly and efficiently, but the boy didn't flinch, didn't argue, didn't beg, because his mind was already somewhere else, back in the small one-room house where his mother lay coughing through the night, where medicine bottles were empty and promises even emptier, where he'd learned to listen, really listen, to broken things until they told him what was wrong. He remembered the nights spent dismantling radios from trash piles, learning by failure, learning by sparks and burns, learning because no one else was going to teach him, and as the millionaire waved him away, already calling his assistant, already deciding this boy didn't exist, the engine coughed again, louder this time, and something shifted in the boy's chest, something stubborn and unbreakable. And he said again, stronger now, "Sir, please. Just 5 minutes. If I fail, I walk away," and the laughter returned, joined by impatience, but curiosity, that dangerous crack in arrogance, made the millionaire nod, not because he believed, but because he wanted entertainment, because he wanted to prove what the world had always shown him, that some people are born to kneel. The boy knelt, yes, but not in submission. He knelt beside the engine, eyes focused, mind silent, the noise of judgment fading as he touched metal like it was alive, listening, remembering, connecting pieces no one thought fit together, and as minutes passed, the street grew quiet, the millionaire's smile faded into irritation, then confusion, and then something close to discomfort, because the engine stopped coughing, the smoke thinned, and when the boy tightened the final bolt and stepped back, wiping grease onto his already ruined shirt, the car purred, not limped, not struggled, it purred like it had been reborn, and silence fell heavy, the kind that makes powerful people uneasy, and the boy looked up and said, almost apologetically, "The fuel line was cracked, and your sensor was misreading pressure." It needed rerouting, not replacing, words that sounded too intelligent for the box the world had put him in, and the millionaire didn't laugh this time, because something far more frightening than failure had just happened, someone he had dismissed had been right. The crowd whispered. The driver stared. The millionaire stared longer. And the boy, still barefoot, still poor, still invisible in every way that mattered to society, had unknowingly taken the first step toward doing the unthinkable. The silence that followed the repaired engine was not the kind that ends a moment but the kind that begins a war inside a man's pride, and the millionaire felt it first, that uncomfortable tightening in his chest when reality refuses to obey status, because in his world money was supposed to solve everything, and people like that boy were supposed to remain background noise, yet here he stood, barefoot and calm, having fixed a problem that expensive mechanics had failed to diagnose, and the millionaire cleared his throat as if sound could restore his authority, reached into his wallet, and pulled out a few bills without counting them, holding them out like charity, like closure, like a final attempt to put the boy back where he belonged, but the boy didn't reach for the money immediately, not because he didn't need it, God knew he did, but because something deeper had awakened in him, something that had been waiting years for a reason to stand upright, and he said quietly, "Sir, I don't want your money. I want a chance," and that sentence hit harder than any insult ever could, because it exposed a truth the millionaire had spent his life avoiding, that opportunity, not talent, is what separates the powerful from the forgotten. The crowd leaned in, sensing that this was no longer about a car, and the millionaire laughed again, but this time it was forced, brittle, defensive, and he asked, a chance for what? Already preparing to dismiss him, already convincing himself that this boy was reaching beyond his place, and the boy replied, I want to work. I want to learn. I want to prove that I'm more than what you see, and for a moment the millionaire considered it, not out of kindness, but curiosity, because something about the boy's eyes didn't beg, didn't challenge, it simply refused to disappear, and so he made a decision that would haunt him later, one meant to humiliate rather than uplift, and he said, fine. Come to my company tomorrow. If you can impress my engineers, I'll give you a job. If you fail, you leave and never bother me again. Certain this was the safest way to end the story, because surely trained professionals would crush a street boy's confidence where he could not. The next day, the boy walked into a building so tall it felt like it touched the sky, his reflection distorted in polished floors that had never known bare feet, his heart pounding not with fear but purpose, and when the engineers gathered around, skeptical smiles already drawn, they began testing him, throwing problems at him like stones, complex systems, theoretical failures, machines that hadn't worked in years, expecting him to crack, expecting him to fold, but the boy listened the way he always had, patiently, deeply, tracing patterns, asking questions no one else thought to ask, touching machines like they were alive, and one by one, impossibly, the systems began to respond, errors resolved not by brute force but understanding, and the room slowly transformed from amusement to disbelief, then to respect, then to silence, and the millionaire watching through the glass felt something unfamiliar creep into his chest, fear, because this was no longer entertainment, this was evidence, and by the end of the day, the boy had done what no one else could, restoring a failed prototype that had cost millions, not by replacing parts, but by reimagining how they worked together, and when it powered on, humming steadily, the room erupted, not in cheers, but stunned quiet, and the millionaire knew then that he had made a mistake far greater than underestimating a poor boy. He had awakened a force he could not control. Years passed like pages turning too fast to stop, and the boy became a man, rising not loudly but undeniably, learning everything, improving everything, never forgetting the hunger that taught him humility, never forgetting the laughter that fueled his discipline, and when he finally left the company, it wasn't in anger but vision, starting with nothing but ideas and an obsession to fix what others said was impossible, building technology that changed lives, creating solutions for people who had been ignored the way he once was, and the world began to speak his name, investors chased him, headlines praised him, and one day, at a global innovation summit, the millionaire sat in the audience, older now, quieter, watching as the keynote speaker stepped onto the stage, the boy he once laughed at, now a self-made visionary, calm, confident, unshakable, and when the man finished speaking, he looked directly at the crowd and said, "They laughed when I said, I can fix this. But fixing things isn't just about machines. It's about believing in people before the world gives them permission," and in that moment, the millionaire understood the true cost of arrogance, because the unthinkable wasn't that the boy succeeded, it was that he had never needed the millionaire's approval at all.